Fan says, "Excuse me, Mr. Cruise? I'm a huge fan of yours. Can I get a selfie?" Tom Cruise says, "Turn off your phone. Not even on airplane mode. Completely off." Fan says, "Huh? But everyone else is." Tom Cruise says, "If everyone else is making a mistake, does that mean you should too? A small lapse can lead to big disasters." Fan says, "I don't think keeping one phone on will make the plane crash. Just like I don't think it's necessary to humiliate a fan like this." Tom Cruise says, "Humiliate? I'm teaching discipline, something that might be beyond the understanding of ordinary folks like you. Perfection is essential in everything." Fan says, "On screen, you save people's lives. In real life, you're breaking their hearts. What kind of perfection is that?" Tom Cruise says, "This is the perfection that made me Tom Cruise. When I yelled at the crew on a mission, impossible set, that was for perfection too. One mistake from them could destroy the work of 200 people, a $200 million project. Do you understand that responsibility?" "No." Fan says, "I do understand the burden, Mr. Cruise, but I also understand the difference between arrogance and responsibility. You're ignoring not their mistakes, but their humanity." Tom Cruise says, "You'll never get it. Go back to your ordinary life and leave me alone." Tom Cruise says, "You think I enjoy all this?" Tom Cruise says, year 2006. Mission Impossible 3 set. A stuntman made a small mistake. The safety cable didn't lock in time. He fell 40 feet. His bones shattered. For 6 months, he was half alive, half dead. I saw the fear in his eyes, and in mine, the guilt of my own failure. Fan says, "But it was his mistake." Tom Cruise says, "No, it was mine. I was the producer. I was the lead actor. The safety of every person on set was my responsibility. That day, I decided I wouldn't tolerate carelessness. Perfection isn't just so the movie turns out good. Perfection is so that every person goes home safe to their kids at the end of the day." Tom Cruise says, "People ask why I do my own stunts. For ego? No, because I don't want to cheat the audience. I respect the money they spend. I want to give them real entertainment, not lies." Fan says, "So your anger comes from fear, not arrogance? Your burden might be heavier than your stunts, Mr. Cruise. But does that burden give you the right to treat others harshly? Are you the only one paying the price of fame?" Tom Cruise says, "Right? Rights and wrongs are decided by those sitting outside the arena, watching the show." Fan. When you're in the arena, it's just a fight for survival. And as for the price, yeah, everyone pays, but the biggest bill always lands on my name." Fan says, "But that same fame has given you power no ordinary person has. One word from you can launch a multi-million-dollar business. It's what got you into this first-class cabin." Tom Cruise says, "And that same fame robs me of my freedom. Do you know the last time I played soccer in the park with my son without people staring? Or bought ice cream for my daughter without thinking twice? Everything's a plan, every moment a security risk. It's a golden cage, Fan. Beautiful, but still a cage." Fan says, "A cage, but the media has the biggest hand in building that cage, right? They build you up and then try to tear you down." Tom Cruise says, "The media isn't a friend, Fan. It's a business. A hungry beast that needs a new story every day. As long as you're making headlines for them, you're an asset. The day you say no to their rules, you become a target." Fan says, "So your famous interviews where you said some controversial things, was all that twisted and taken out of context?" Tom Cruise says, "Absolutely. They take a 30-second clip from an hour-long conversation with no context. Then the world judges you based on those 30 seconds for years. They don't see your intent, just the sensation. They turn me from a passionate guy into a crazy one. Is that justice?" Fan says, "But the same media calls you the last movie star. You do interviews with them when your movies release. So, is it just a relationship of convenience? Friends when it benefits you, enemies when it doesn't?" Tom Cruise says, "It's more than convenience. It's a cog in a machine called Hollywood. A machine that runs not just on talent, but on money, news, and controversies as fuel. You just watch the movies, Fan. I see the whole machine running." Fan says, "Machine? It sounds like you're not making movies. You're running some massive factory." Tom Cruise says, "Think of it as a factory. A movie isn't just a story. It's the livelihood of hundreds of families. From the lighting guy to the caterer, everyone's income is tied to this project. When I'm on set, I'm not just an actor. I'm a CEO responsible for keeping this factory from going under." Fan says, "But an actor's job is to act, not handle business. Tom Cruise says, when your name is on the poster, everything becomes your responsibility. Producers and studios invest millions. They don't just want a good story, they want profit. If my movie flops, it doesn't just affect my career, it impacts the futures of hundreds of people tied to the project. Fan says, so the anger on set was a result of that pressure? Tom Cruise says, exactly. When you see a small mistake wasting a day's shoot, costing hundreds of thousands of dollars, would you stay silent? Is that anger just anger or the pressure of a responsibility no one else can understand? Fan says, that pressure makes sense. But in all this, your personal beliefs, your religion, Scientology, how does it help you cope with the pressure? Or does it make it worse? Tom Cruise says, my beliefs are personal, but the media turns them into a spectacle. Scientology is a tool for me to better myself. It teaches me how to control my mind, hone my abilities. It's discipline, like an athlete working out every day. Fan says, but the world doesn't see it that way. They see a mysterious organization that controls its members tightly and silences critics. Several of your close associates left and made serious allegations. Tom Cruise says, do you believe every person who leaves a family and then trashes it? Every group, religion, organization has unhappy people. But their story isn't the whole truth. They show only one side, the one that makes them look like victims. Fan says, but when it comes to your family, your marriages, those allegations get personal. People say your beliefs deeply affected your relationships. Tom Cruise says, see, you're doing what the media does. Ignoring my work, my pressures, my responsibilities, and peeking into my bedroom. Is any relationships end easy? Is it ever just one person's fault? But when mine ends, the whole world becomes a judge, and my beliefs go on trial. Fan says, maybe because people see you as a hero. And when they spot a crack in the hero's life, they want to know why. Is that wrong? Tom Cruise says, wrong? No, it's not wrong. It's human nature. But it's unfair. You call me a hero, but you don't understand what that means. A hero doesn't descend from the sky, Fan. He's flesh and blood. He gets tired, makes mistakes, and his heart hurts too. Fan says, but your work, your stunts, they're extraordinary, not like ordinary people. Tom Cruise says, my work is extraordinary. My life isn't. When my daughter was in her first school play, I was practicing jumping off a mountain so millions like you could clap in the theater. So tell me, who was the better dad? The one there for his daughter, or the one becoming a hero for millions? Fan says, that's a really tough question. Tom Cruise says, and I live that tough question every day of my life. I spent my kids' birthdays and milestones on film sets. That's the price I've paid. So when someone points fingers at my personal life, it makes me angry because they don't know what I've sacrificed. Fan says, maybe we audiences are selfish too. We expect you to be the best actor, the best stuntman, and the best human all at once. And that's probably impossible. Tom Cruise says, impossible. But I've spent my whole life trying to make the impossible possible. Sometimes it feels like in that effort, I won the on-screen life but lost the real one. Fan says, but you're still doing it all. You're over 60, yet you do stunts that young actors are scared of. Don't you ever get tired? Or are you afraid of something? Like time. Tom Cruise says, I do get tired. My body reminds me every morning that I'm not 30 anymore. Recovery after each stunt takes longer than before. Every injury hurts more. It's a constant battle I fight with my own body. Fan says, then why don't you stop? Tom Cruise says, and the fear of time? Yeah, maybe. It's not fear of getting old. It's fear that time is short and there's so much left to do. I want to leave a mark on this industry. I want people 50 years from now to read cinema history and say there was an actor, Tom Cruise, who was willing to do anything for his audience. Fan says, so this legacy is more important to you than your family? Do you want people to remember you as a great actor or as a great dad and husband? Tom Cruise says, I want them to remember both. But maybe I've always risked one to get the other. That's the truth I live with every day. And maybe that's my biggest fear. Fan says, fear? I've never associated that word with your name. To us audiences, you're fearless. Maybe maybe we're the ones putting this burden on you. Tom Cruise says, what do you mean? Fan says, we buy a ticket and expect you to risk your life in return. We want you hanging from planes, jumping off tall buildings so we can forget our ordinary lives for 2 hours while munching popcorn on the couch. We turn your pain into our entertainment. Tom Cruise says, that's the reality of my job. I've accepted it. Fan says, but it doesn't end there. After the show, we also expect you to be a perfect human, a perfect dad, a perfect husband. We forget that the guy who just brushed with death can get tired, can make mistakes. Tom Cruise says, silence. Fan says, maybe your anger, your tough attitude, isn't just yours. It's a reflection of all our audience's unrealistic expectations. We've made you a god, and now we're surprised when you act like a human. Tom Cruise says, You've said today what I've never been able to say to myself. Tom Cruise says, You've said something today I could never say to myself. What will you do? I mean, the way you understand human psychology and pressure, you don't seem like an ordinary fan. Fan says, me? I'm nothing special. I'm a teacher. I teach history to kids. Maybe that's why I'm interested in stories and the past and present of their characters. Your story too, Mr. Cruise. One of the most fascinating and complex stories in the world. Tom Cruise says, a teacher. Now it makes sense. You guys are the real heroes of a nation. We just mimic it on screen, but you shape the future in real life. Fan says, so now, what's the next chapter of this story? Will this machine keep running the same way? Or will you try to open the door of that golden cage? Tom Cruise says, the door might never fully open. That's just how fame works. But maybe I'll learn to look out the window while living in this cage. Maybe I'll learn to accept a little imperfection alongside perfection. Thank you for this conversation. Fan says, thank you, Mr. Cruise, for introducing me not to a star, but to a human. Narrator says, a confrontation that began at 30,000 feet ended in profound self-reflection. The plane is about to land at its destination, but perhaps a new journey has begun in our minds. Narrator says, we saw the arrogance of a superstar, and then the fear hidden behind that arrogance. We heard his anger, and then understood the pressure and responsibility that gave birth to it. We learned of a hero's sacrifices and also a human's vulnerabilities. Narrator says, so the question isn't whether Tom Cruise is a hero or a villain. Narrator says, the question is whether we, as audiences, allow our heroes to remain human. Does someone's extraordinary success elevate them above ordinary human flaws? Narrator says, and the most important question, when we judge a star, do we only see their shine, or do we also see the fuel burning to create that glow? Narrator says, this story has no single answer. The answer lies within you. Subscribe to the channel and share your thoughts in the comments below.